It already looked massive, but this thing must have been 7 foot plus.
That is giant.
What the is that?
Deep inside protected national parks, trail cameras are meant to catch deer, bears, and the occasional prowling cougar. But every so often they record something that shouldn't exist at all. One camera may have recorded an animal officially extinct for nearly a century.
This extinction is one of the most tragic extinctions, and that played out in front of human eyes.
Another captured a mysterious child wandering at 3 a.m. and figures that cannot be identified. Number 15, the thylacine tiger.
In Australia, possible sightings of a Tasmanian tiger are prompting new searches for the animal that many believed was extinct.
In Australia, the thylacine tiger was officially declared extinct from this planet nearly 100 years ago. Museums preserved the final specimens, but then a camera stationed deep within Victoria's untouched bushlands recorded something no one ever predicted. The footage shows a creature with distinctive characteristics matching no living Australian animal. Notice that the tail, completely rigid, extends horizontally from the body without the slightest droop or curve. That single anatomical detail separates this animal from every dog, dingo, or fox on the continent. Shockingly, thylacines possessed that exact feature. Zoologists who studied archived footage from the last confirmed thylacine in captivity note the gait matches perfectly.
Their skills very seriously, and it's very hard to say to those people, I don't think you saw a thylacine.
The stride pattern, the head carriage, even the way the animal pauses to survey surroundings before continuing. Skeptics argue that it could probably be a domestic dog with an unusual posture. But wild dogs do not just move through dense Australian scrubland with that level of confidence. This creature moves like it owns the territory. Could isolated populations have endured in Victoria's most remote regions? The camera didn't provide a clear facial shot, so that left room for debate. But those who have spent decades studying extinct species keep returning to that tail, that undeniable movement pattern. We might have declared extinction too early. Number 14, crow attacking a hawk nest. Warfare exists throughout nature, but rarely do we witness a calculated murder planned with this cold precision. A hawk nest sat exposed on a sturdy branch. Trail camera footage captures what happens next, and honestly, it is both brilliant and brutal. A crow arrives, landing several feet from the nest initially. Watch how it pauses, turning its head methodically to scan the entire area. No adult hawk in sight. The crow hops closer, inspecting the nest's contents from multiple angles. Inside sits a baby hawk chick, vulnerable and unaware. You see, crows possess remarkable intelligence, understanding that today's helpless chick becomes tomorrow's aerial predator competing for the same food sources. So this crow decides to eliminate it while it's still young. It approaches the nest, peers directly at the chick as if confirming the target, then snatches the baby in its beak and departs quickly without hesitation. The entire operation takes less than 30 seconds. Ornithologists call this behavior competitive infanticide, but that terminology feels too clinical for what we are watching. Number 13, fox dining alongside raccoons. Biology establishes clear hierarchies in the way ecosystems are structured, so foxes always hunt raccoons, particularly targeting juveniles who wander away from their parental protection. This relationship remains consistent across North American forests, documented in countless studies. So when trail camera footage emerged, showing a fox sharing a meal with 2 adult raccoons, wildlife experts genuinely struggled to process what they were seeing. All 3 animals feed from the same scattered food source, positioned within feet of each other, displaying zero aggression or tension. The fox shows no predatory body language whatsoever, no lowered stance, no intense staring, no preparation for a strike. The raccoons as well exhibit equally calm behavior, not even bothering to maintain defensive positioning. Researchers initially suspected the footage must be manipulated, but frame analysis confirms it is authentic. Some biologists say that artificial feeding stations teach animals to associate certain locations with abundance rather than competition, gradually removing natural hostilities through repeated peaceful encounters. Others suggest severe hunger creates temporary truces when reliable food appears. Number 12. Strange figures in the river. April came with unsettling reports from riverside communities describing unusual encounters with entities that did not behave like anything living or dead. Locals spoke of presence near the water after dark. The footage from a trail camera positioned at the river's edge shows figures at the waterline, pale forms with elongated dark hair obscuring most of their features. But you can see their eyes. They reflect light back toward the camera with an unnatural luminescence, glowing like polished mirrors catching headlight beams. Human eyes do not reflect light that intensely. Their skin tone appears bleached, drained of color in a way that suggests prolonged water exposure or something worse. The hair flows around them in long dark curtains, stirred by the gentle current but somehow never revealing full faces. Regional folklore describes water spirits in these areas, entities that drowned and never left. Whereas skeptics suggest the footage shows debris or partially submerged logs creating pareidolia, but debris does not have eyes. Number 11. The Midnight Visitor. Security cameras mounted around an Appalachian mountain property exist to record wildlife and deter intruders. They do not typically capture figures in flowing white robes approaching homes at 3 in the morning. Yet that is exactly what appeared on one homeowner's footage. The figure moves slowly across the property, draped in pale fabric that obscures all identifying features. As it approaches closer to the residence, you can hear vocalization. A voice emerges from beneath the hood, rough and strained, speaking words that chill despite their simplicity. "Let me in." The figure repeats this phrase multiple times, growing slightly louder with each repetition. Motion sensor lights activate, flooding the area with illumination. Instead of revealing features, the light seems to make the figure more obscure. Then the figure retreats, moving backward toward the tree line while maintaining frontal orientation toward the house. Security footage from a second camera angle provides slightly clearer audio. "Let me in" comes through with that same grinding quality, that absence of natural inflection. Authorities found no footprints despite soft ground conditions. The homeowner reported feeling physically ill for days after the encounter, describing persistent nausea and disorientation that medical examinations could not explain. Number 10. The Breathing Earth. As you know, solid earth beneath our feet represents fundamental stability in an uncertain world. We trust that the ground will not betray basic physics. Then footage like this from Quebec shows terrain that violates these assumptions completely. The camera captures the forest floor moving in rhythmic pulses, rising and falling like massive lungs drawing breath. Soil swells upward in synchronized waves, lifting vegetation with it, then subsiding before repeating the cycle. Trees sway at their bases, not from wind in their canopy, but from movement originating beneath their roots. Scientists explain this phenomenon results from powerful wind patterns surging through underground root networks, creating pressure waves that physically displace soil. Ancient cultures described the planet as a living entity, sentient and aware. Modern science categorized these beliefs as primitive anthropomorphization, but viewing this footage makes those dismissals feel somehow inadequate. The movement is too organic, too deliberate, too alive. You can almost imagine the forest inhaling and exhaling, drawing energy from air and sun. Indigenous traditions speak of places where the boundary between physical and spiritual grows thin, where the earth remembers and responds. Could this be documentation of such locations? Number 9. Mountain lion stalking a hiker. October 2020 delivered one of the scariest trail camera documentations of predator-prey dynamics ever recorded.
Go away! Go away, please go away! Holy
A Utah hiker named Kyle Burgess embarked on an evening run through Slate Canyon, expecting nothing more than elevated heart rate and scenic views.
I can't even explain on what I thought this would happen, because this is all just crazy to me.
But his camera captured something entirely different. While jogging, Kyle noticed small animals ahead on the trail. His initial assessment identified them as bobcats. Interesting, but not threatening. He moved closer to film them, making what he would later describe as the worst decision of his life.
There was that part, right? She got that close to me. It was within probably five feet of me.
Those were not bobcats. They were mountain lion cubs, and their mother was very, very close. From dense brush beside the trail emerged a full-grown cougar, muscles rippling beneath tawny fur, amber eyes locked onto the human who had approached her offspring. What follows is more frightening than imagined. The cougar advances steadily, closing distance while Kyle walks backward. She hisses, a sound that vibrates with menace even through camera audio.
Die. No! Get the away! Stupid kitty cat!
She lunges forward in false charges, testing his responses. Finally, after eternal minutes of backward retreat, Kyle grabbed a rock and threw it. That action broke the stalemate. The cougar turned and sprinted back toward her cubs, vanishing into forest cover. Wildlife experts later confirmed Kyle handled the encounter almost perfectly. Number 8. Dogman figures. There have been lots of stories from every continent about the exact same terrifying creature. Half human, half canine, combing through forests on 2 legs. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as just campfire tales meant to frighten children. Then trail camera footage emerged. The recording shows a large bipedal creature covered in dark fur, moving with unsettling confidence through dense woodland. What immediately strikes viewers is the snout, elongated and distinctly canine.
It looks like a large black dog, but then it rears up on its hind legs and stands over 7 feet tall.
But this is not a bear briefly standing upright. Bears wobble when bipedal, shifting weight awkwardly between legs, arms dangling for balance. But this creature walks naturally, comfortably, as if upright locomotion is its default state rather than temporary behavior. Wildlife biologists examining the footage struggle to identify any species of this kind. The proportions are wrong for bears, the gait too fluid for any ape species documented on this continent. Cryptozoologists celebrate this as validation of the Dogman legends, those reports of wolf-headed humanoids stalking the forests of Michigan, Wisconsin, and beyond. Number 7. The hairless bipeds. A trail camera stationed in the Appalachian Mountains captured one of the most disturbing sequences in modern cryptid documentation. 2 figures move across the property, initially traveling on all 4s in a quadrupedal gait that might suggest large dogs or other common animals. But as they continue forward, both creatures transition to bipedal locomotion in a movement that looks practiced, natural, comfortable. Standing upright, their true nature becomes horrifyingly clear. These beings possess elongated, emaciated bodies with visible bone structure beneath hairless skin. Their limbs seem disproportionately thin, with eyes that reflect camera light with intense luminescence, creating glowing orbs where faces should be. The footage quality prevents identification of fine details, but overall body structure suggests nothing that currently appears in zoological records. Some viewers immediately identify these creatures as matching rake descriptions, those supposedly fictional entities described in internet horror stories. Others suggest Wendigo connections, invoking Native American folklore about cursed beings that hunger eternally. These interpretations share common themes, though. These are not animals. They are not human either. The fact that they appear comfortable in both quadrupedal and bipedal movement suggests adaptability beyond any single species' typical range. Number 6. Eyes in the darkness. 2 hikers moved through woodland after sunset, cameras recording their journey just for routine documentation. Night hiking presents manageable challenges when you carry proper lighting and maintain awareness. But then, they saw it. Light in the distance, bright and focused like a flashlight beam directed toward them. They were initially relieved that maybe another hiking party was approaching from the opposite direction. Except the light did not move like handheld lights. It remained stationary, elevated, watching. As their own lights swept toward the source, 2 glowing eyes reflected back from an impossible height, tall enough that no animal native to this region should possess eyes at that elevation unless perched in a tree. But the eyes showed no evidence that it was supported by any branch. The hikers attempted closer examination, directing flashlight beams fully toward the eyes. At that moment, the glow vanished completely, as if the source could control its own reflective properties or had simply ceased existing. The footage cuts off shortly after this, leaving viewers to wonder whether the hikers fled or chose to discontinue recording. Cryptozoology enthusiasts point to Bigfoot reports describing eye glow, to tales of Sasquatch standing motionless in darkness. Others invoke Dogman sightings. What remains uncontested is that two experienced hikers encountered something that is completely beyond their understanding of anything they've ever seen in the wilderness. Number 5. The moment the antlers fell. This trail camera captured a moment so perfectly timed it feels almost staged. A mature buck walks into frame, carrying the impressive rack he has worn for months. You see, those antlers represent status, genetic superiority, and of course, weapons ready for territorial battles. But in one instant, everything changes. The buck suddenly jerks his head downward with violent force, a sharp whipping motion that looks almost painful. Both antlers detach simultaneously, launching away from his skull in opposite directions. They hit the ground several feet apart while the buck bolts immediately, sprinting away from his shed antlers with explosive speed, leaving behind the physical markers of his former identity without a backward glance. Wildlife biologists explain this as routine annual shedding triggered by dropping hormone levels after mating season. Number 4. The vanishing figure. Here, the property owner checking trail camera footage noticed nothing unusual in the first image. Just trees, undergrowth, typical forest scenery, but something prompted a closer examination. When he took a closer look, a small silhouette became visible in the background, partially hidden by vegetation but definitely present. The shape suggests a figure that roughly looks like a human, standing motionless among the trees. Now here comes the unsettling part. The camera captured a second image moments later, documenting the same location from the identical angle. That watching figure has completely disappeared. The timestamp between images shows mere seconds elapsed, insufficient for any human to relocate beyond camera range that quickly, especially moving through the undergrowth visible in the frame. The figure would need to sprint at supernatural speed to exit the field of view that rapidly, and such movement would create disturbance in vegetation, noise, and evidence of passage. None exists. Some viewers cannot locate the silhouette in the first image at all, suggesting pareidolia creates false pattern recognition in random arrangements of leaves and shadow. Others see it immediately once pointed out, insisting the humanoid shape is too clear, too defined to be an accidental pattern. However, both groups struggled to explain the disappearance in the second frame. Theories range from practical to paranormal. Perhaps the figure was trespassing and fled upon noticing the camera. Perhaps atmospheric conditions created the illusion of a figure that never actually existed. Perhaps we documented something with capabilities beyond normal physical constraints. Number 3. Buck shedding its huge antler. Deep in the forest, a mature buck confronts one of the most uncomfortable aspects of antler growth. For months, his developing antlers have been covered in velvet, a fuzzy, blood-rich skin that supplies nutrients for rapid bone growth. Now that growth is complete, and the velvet must come off. Trail camera footage captures the full process in intimate detail. The buck approaches a sturdy tree, then begins by rubbing gently, testing the contact, then increases pressure as the velvet starts releasing. Watch as he twists his head, pressing different angles of his antlers against the trunk, methodically working to remove every strip of the now dead tissue. Chunks come away in ragged pieces. The buck pauses occasionally, probably experiencing relief as the itching sensation diminishes. Then he returns to the task, rubbing harder, more insistently, clearly motivated to complete this uncomfortable transformation. Those massive antlers that looked impressive while covered in soft velvet now become tools and weapons as hard bone emerges beneath. The process takes considerable time and effort, turning what should be simple grooming into an exhausting ordeal. This might seem routine, and technically it is. Every mature male deer goes through velvet shedding annually, but witnessing the complete sequence reveals just how much work is involved. Within weeks, this same buck will look entirely different, ready for the rut season when males compete for mating rights. Number 2. Child of the night. Around 3 a.m., a trail camera positioned near the woodland edge captured a figure that triggered immediate alarm upon discovery. A child walks through the trees, dressed in pale clothing that stands out starkly against the black background. Young, small, completely out of place in the wilderness at this hour. The footage shows the child moving steadily forward, arms positioned oddly, one hand pressed against their stomach rather than swinging naturally at their side. And the eyes. Even through grainy night vision footage, something about the eyes appears wrong. They reflect camera light with intensity beyond normal human response, glowing with that same unnatural luminescence seen in predators. When this image circulated online, immediate assumptions suggested a sleepwalking child who wandered from a nearby residence. Sleepwalking explains nighttime wandering, except several details resist that comfortable interpretation. Sleepwalkers typically move with uncertain, stumbling gait. This child walks steadily, confidently, as if fully aware despite the darkness. The hand pressed to stomach position suggests intention rather than random sleep posture. And those eyes, human eyes, should not reflect light that way. Some viewers invoke paranormal explanations. Black-eyed children, entities from urban legend described as children with completely black eyes who appear at homes requesting entry. More theories suggest a lost child experiencing genuine emergency, but no missing children reports matched this description in the region. Number 1. Skinwalker. On our number 1 spot, this happened in Michigan, 2021. A couple reviewed their trail camera expecting deer, or maybe a curious fox. Instead, they captured something that still generates heated debate across paranormal forums. The footage shows a figure emerging slowly from behind distant trees, moving with deliberate caution through the underbrush. At first glance, you might mistake it for an emaciated human, someone lost or injured wandering through wilderness. But look closer. The proportions are wrong. Limbs extend too long, joints bend at subtle angles that human anatomy should not permit. The body appears skeletal, thin to the bone, yet moves with agility that suggests surprising strength. Then it notices the camera. The figure freezes mid-step, head turning directly toward the lens with awareness that feels disturbingly intelligent. For several seconds, it simply stares. Then it retreats, slipping back behind the trees with fluid motion that seems too smooth. The camera continues recording empty forest, but watch what happens next. Without warning, the figure launches itself directly at the camera in an explosive burst of speed, closing the distance in a split second. The footage ends abruptly in a blur of movement and darkness. Native American folklore describes skinwalkers as beings that occupy the space between human and animal. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.